All right, hello. All right. Good morning, and thank you for coming to our talk this early. So hopefully the caffeine is kicking in now. All right, so imagining having a threat actor or watching a cyber criminal demo their EDR bypass tool, and then realizing that they just exposed their identity. And then by looking at the videos that they've recorded, we identified and we tracked down the developer, the ROG VMs, the different infrastructures that they've used, the different tooling, even the car that they've rented, the Mercedes that they've rented on that day. And then that's exactly our talk is all about. Our talk is all about attacker identity revealed, insights from ROG VMs, bring your own vulnerable driver in EDR evasion. And my name is Renzon Cruz. I'm a technical director of incident response at Unit 42 from Palo Alto Networks. I'm also an active contributor from the DFIR report, and also I do a lot of APT labs for training purposes from the Sintra APT labs.
Hi, everyone. My name is Navin. I'm a threat researcher at Unit 42. I'm part of the reactive services team. What our team does is we provide intelligence support to investigators working in incident response cases, and at the same time, we also look opportunities for extracting valuable intelligence from these cases. Super happy to be here.
Right, so we're going to divide this talk in two parts. So we're going to discuss the incident response part first, because this is coming from an incident response engagement. And then second one, Navin will talk about the intelligence that we've gathered after we gain access to the ROG VMs of the threat actor. So let's start with the initial access. So these are all the observations that we did from the Unit 42 team who responded to this case. So initially, the threat actor looks into buying the credential on the dark web through initial access broker, or what we call IABs. And then it turns out that they got a legitimate access into a help desk, which also has access into an RMM tool called Atera. So this company uses Atera as a legitimate application. So they use this for troubleshooting purposes. They use it for performing remote connections to multiple systems and servers. And then it was heavily abused by this particular threat actor. So this is our XDR view when we found out this particular attack. So it started with Atera agent.exe. It creates a service. And then suddenly, we also noticed that the cmd.exe was launched via Atera. And then that starts with the reconnaissance of this particular threat actor. And then this is what you can see when you look into the Atera console. You can literally see that you can do command prompt, you can do PowerShell, you can do whatever you want using these multiple terminal tools. So this is also being leveraged and abused by these threat actors. So now let's look into the disabler.exe, which is originally coming from a project called EDR Sandblast, which is heavily leveraged now by multiple Rust groups or by multiple threat actor groups to perform EDR bypasses. So you can see that on the PDP file that we found that it was really from this particular GitHub project, but they just kind of customized this particular tool. And this also shows on how we perform the executions of disabler.exe. So you can see that it performs enumerations first and detects those userland hooks that was created by the XDR platforms. This is the part where they perform the reconnaissance phase, just to make sure that they map the defense surface of multiple machines. And then this is where the magic happens, because this is where they perform the BYOVD, or the Bring Your Own Vulnerable Driver, where they use a WN BIOS.sys, which is always included into the execution of this particular bypass, and then for them to gain a kernel-level access to unhook those EDR tools. Now this is just a look of how they perform this particular attack, but we just do a demo of it. And again, after running that disabler.exe, that also creates a service as part of the persistence. Now let's look into the command and control. So we found a lot of CobbleStrike beacons across the infrastructure of the client. As you can see that there's, I guess, around 9 or 10 beacons that we found on multiple servers. And they've also deployed that using the Atera. So Atera is acting not just an RMM, but it could be like a command and control in steroids as well. And when we look and parse one of the beacons, which is the VM32.dll that we found under program data, if I can remember, we also look into the CS watermark, or the CobbleStrike watermark, which we found out that this particular CobbleStrike version was used by different threat actors since 2023. And up until now, this year, this is still being used by multiple groups. Looking into the persistence, that VM32.dll that you found, we also noticed that it was run via scheduled test, which is a very typical concept when you perform persistence. And this is the loop where we deleted it into one of the servers of the threat actor. They've used a very legitimate tool called rclone, but now heavily abused by also multiple threat actor groups. So they've named it VMware.exe, but when you look into the screenshots, it's actually just rclone, right? And then there's a lot of OPSEC failure when you use rclone, especially from the DIS level, because we can literally see the username and password of the threat actor by looking and by grabbing that rclone.config file. But there's a catch there, because that particular password is encoded, and there are multiple ways for you to decode it. Whether you do it on a Perl script that is hosted online, there's also multiple Python scripts now that is available on GitHub for you to decode it, or you can actually use the rclone itself, because there is a functionality called reveal that will decode the value of the encoded password that you can see on the rclone config file. And that is exactly what you need for you to know what's the username and password of the threat actor. The caveat, though, is that that particular reveal command will not be shown if you do rclone config --shell, because it was hidden by the developer. And that's what we use to also find out the password of the threat actors himself. So now this is the high-level chain of events. So again, they started with Atera as their initial access. They dropped PSexec in multiple systems just to jump from one place to another. And they also perform a lot of discovery commands, reconnaissance, a lot of lolbeans, and they also perform exfiltration. And then by the time that they perform exfiltration, there's no ransomware into this particular engagement, but we've noticed one rogue VM that connected into their tenant, right? So when we noticed it in the middle of our engagement, the client said that we have to investigate it because this is not part of their corporate assets. The naming convention is not following their naming convention from that corporate. So we decided to perform a deep forensic investigation of that machine. And then it turns out that this is the threat actor's machine. All right, so before we move into the intelligence part, we also did a threat actor negotiation on this one. So there are a couple of hiccups that we found here. So the first one was the message of the threat actor, where they perform harassment to multiple executives of this particular client. So initially, they were asking for $350,000 for them not to expose the data that they've taken. There's also a lot of compliments that we received from this threat actor. You're doing a good job over there. This is the middle of the negotiation where we're still at the 33% of the reduction of the price, but we ended up having 46% of the price. And the last message that we received from them is that such a tough negotiator you are, and then they provided the BTC address where we can send the payment. Now this is the desktop, all right? So since we got an approval from the client to investigate this, because this is not their asset, this is a rogue VM that just randomly appears on their console. So we from Unit 42 have taken a look into it, and then we found a lot of materials, a lot of files that are being used by the particular threat actor. And I'll let Navin discuss this.
Thank you, Renzon. So now Renzon did allude to the fact of what this bypass tool can do and what it's capable for, but the next logical question for us was where did it come from? On the rogue system, we found a directory called Z freelance containing folders with pretty suspicious names. We hypothesized that these could probably be aliases for other threat actors and searched for those names on cybercrime forums such as XSS and Exploit. One particular username called Marty71 immediately stood out. That individual had multiple posts actively seeking out tools to bypass antivirus and EDR solutions. So in one specific post, Marty71 was looking for an out-of-the-box solution to disable antivirus software and expressed a willingness to purchase subscription-based solutions. The final response in that thread came from a user named Kernel Mode, who offered something Marty71 was looking for, a custom-made AV EDR bypass tool. So at this stage of the investigation, Kernel Mode was pretty much just a username for us. We had no idea whether they were involved with this particular incident, who is behind this account, if it's one person, if it's a group, we had no idea. For us, at this point, it was just an alias. Following to that particular link that kernel mode had shared in that post took us to another thread that kernel mode had initiated to sell subscriptions to this bypass tool, specifically disabling of file and memory scanning per kernel mode. So at the very end of the post, kernel mode mentions that they can provide video demonstrations of the tool, and we were able to get our hands on these videos. In each recording, you see a specific EDR agent that's installed on the system and running. The actor then executes the bypass tool, and then to prove that the bypassing was successful, they end up running Mimikatz. So now these videos were meant to be a sales tool, but as you're about to see, they ended up being a major puzzle in this particular investigation that helped us unravel this whole case. We actually see Marty71 few months later in this very thread posting, and he seemed to indicate that he had a pretty good experience. Actually, I shouldn't presume. We don't really know who Marty71 is, but this particular individual indicated that they ended up using this tool and had a pretty good experience with it. This access to the rogue system ended up providing a pretty it was a pretty big forensic goldmine for us. We will now talk about some of the files and artifacts that we recovered that helped us connect some of the dots here. We found an archive file, contitraining.rar. It contained a torrent file that was created somewhere in the middle of 2021. And this file was created to download the Conti ransomware playbook, which some of you might know was leaked publicly that same year. We recovered a whole suite of tools and documents likely sourced from GitHub and other sources with purposes such as generating and executing shellcode, kernel driver utilities, code obfuscation, bypassing security protections, anti-cheat software, and many more. We also found a pretty messy text file. It contained IP addresses bundled with what seemed to be host login credentials. And there was another text file with what appeared to contain escrow payment details. We also uncovered a document called the P1 form. And let's keep that in mind because I will soon get back to that. And finally, we came across some demo recordings of EDR bypassing tooling. Turns out they were exactly as the demonstration videos that we were able to get from kernel mode. So now let's go back to one of the files on the rogue system that really caught our attention, the spreadsheet called the P1 form. According to our research, which we confirmed by looking at the government procurement site for the Republic of Kazakhstan, the P1 form is an official document used for things like invoicing and documenting completed work or services. The spreadsheet we found contained a transaction between two companies, both based in Kazakhstan. Crucially, one of the company names was exposed in this document, and this ended up being a vital piece of information that helped us with the threat actor profiling. As a side note, the form itself was a pretty strange transaction, the renting of 30 Mercedes cars. Unfortunately, we don't really know the background story to that. Now let's take a closer look at the recording. A few seemingly minor details ended up being some pretty crucial clues here. So this is a screenshot taken from one of the recordings. Apologies for the clarity. The video recording in itself was a pretty poor resolution. But what you see here is the actor's desktop during the demonstration. The command prompt window is where they run the bypass tool, disabler.exe. After running the bypass tool, this is the same window where they also end up running Mimikatz to prove that the bypassing was successful. And somewhere in the center, you see the EDR agent that's currently installed on the system. Now let's break down some of the key observations that we can make from just the single screenshot here. If you notice the top right corner, it shows what we're looking at here is an Oracle VirtualBox VM instance. And if you look at the taskbar of the host system right at the bottom, you can see that it looks like there are a bunch of other VM instances open and running simultaneously. The VM's hostname is displayed directly on the endpoint agent panel. This is the same hostname of the rogue system that was captured by the investigators during the investigation of this attack, which confirms that the system we captured was in fact a virtual machine. And at the same time, it is very likely that some of the bypass tool demonstrations were done using this particular VM. The management console URL here appears to be quite unconventional. A quick search of this domain led us to a Telegram channel where a user had shared a fake installation token to have this agent installed in early 2024. When you base64 decode that token, it unveils the exact URL that you see right here. And looking at the titles of the open applications on the host machine taskbar, the one besides the Chrome icon is incomplete, but appears to show a name starting with A and DR. What we do next is then we go through other videos to see if we could find anything additional, and we do come across one such video where we get a much clearer view of that application. This time the word Andri is present in the title. And the icon of the application suggests that the application used was Winbox, a tool for administering MetroTik routers. We believe Andri is part of the username that was used to log into that application. Another application used that you see here is OBS Studio, which is a common open source tool for video recording and was likely used to record this particular demo. This is the point of investigation where all the pieces come together, unmasking the guy behind kernel mode and the creator of the bypass tool. So the files we found on the rogue system, especially the demo recordings and the P1 form, represented a major operational security failure by the threat actor. This failure is ultimately what helped us expose them. We took the name we captured from the video, Andri, and searched for it in connection with the company name from the P1 form. This led us to the individual's LinkedIn profile, confirming they were an employee at that same Kazakhstan-based company. We also located their social media VK profile. We then gathered some more details about the organization itself. While we can't disclose the exact name, here are some key details. The company was registered with the Kazakhstan government in early 2023, listing software development as its line of business and having around 5 employees. Interestingly, the website itself lists its address in a place called Almaty, but other legal sources point to an address in Saran in the Karaganda region, all in Kazakhstan. The company website also provides profiles for its employees, noting that most of them were programmers with varying level of skill sets. Of the 5 employees listed, one was a clear match. The photo on the company website was identical to that of their LinkedIn profile. At the same time, the actor's VK profile and a post caption suggested Saran to be their hometown, which, if you recall, is the same town listed as the company's legal address. So let's recap what we've observed so far. The rogue system we captured contained multiple recordings, all demonstrating a bypass tool used against various EDR products. We know that those exact videos were being distributed on cybercrime forums by an actor that goes by the username kernel mode. The Windows taskbar visible on the host machine in those recordings exposed the suspected name of the actor. An expense spreadsheet, the P1 form, was also present on the rogue system and revealed the name of the company employing the individual. And then we pivoted on all this information to discover what we believe is the true identity of this individual, along with their personal and professional details. With all these points in mind, we do assess with some level of confidence that the individual we identified is one of the people, if not the only person, behind the alias kernel mode. Based on their professional background and some additional information that we had gathered, we also believe that this individual is one of the developers, if not the only developer of the AV EDR bypass tool. However, it does appear that this actor is not solely responsible for this particular attack that was investigated, though we cannot confirm it either way. The main reason being that this rogue machine that we had captured was not involved in the attack besides for the purposes of testing the AV EDR bypass tool. And yeah, that's it from us. If you'd like to revisit the investigation and find out more details about it, you can visit our Unit 42 blog in the Unit 42 Threat Research Center. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.